Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to walk you through how you can build a multimodal agentic tool as well. So we're going to be using our Chrome browser, which many of you might have already, and we're going to make a Chrome extension that can interact directly with the web. But overall, I want you to take away several key points. Okay, so in this really quick 20-minute talk, we're going to talk about the overall agentic system architecture. So no matter what type of agent you're building, you'll have to deal with this overall system. So we're going to take an overview of that and using a real example of a web browsing agent that we're going to be building together to showcase a custom workflow for you. And then we're going to close out with some next steps and a futuristic view of agentic AI. Perfect. So this is the system overview. For any AI agent, it kind of has to perform these three things when they're interacting with a user. In analogy to a human body, we're talking about three parts of a human body. We're talking about the eyes, the brain, and the body. So that's also a very simplistic view of how humans interact with the world. So for AI agent, it also has to have the eyes, which can make observations, like a view of what the current state of the system is. And then based on the observations, it can internalize what needs to be done. So the brain needs to take into account the goal, the constraints, the whole possible action space, and the current state, right? So using all those information, you can then rationalize what would be the ideal next step to advance the system to the next stage that will get it closer to accomplishing the ultimate goal. And then you can take actions by having the body part. The action piece are some commands or prompts that we give to the AI agent so that it can execute high-level actions that can advance the system to the next state, right? So depending on what type of system and AI agent you're talking about, these actions can be as simple as click and scroll, but it can be as complicated as booking or typing. Okay, so we're going to illustrate this a little bit better with an example of a web browsing agent. And why is this especially interesting example? So there are a lot of opportunities that you can unlock with a web browsing agent. First of all, it is RAG enabled already. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So for any agent to generate an action, it needs to be based on some observations and thoughts, as we talked about earlier. Retrieval Augmented Generation will decrease the possibility of hallucination. And in this case, if your agent has access to the web, it can already do retrieval-based reasoning instead of just being locked into its own thoughts. So being in a web browser like Chrome, it will have the access to the open web, so you can go to search if anything is unclear, and you can instruct the agent to do so when there's not enough information. And another opportunity is personalization, because when you're in your Chrome browser, a lot of times you're logged into some of your own accounts already. Without this login, agents will have to go through very complicated loops for authentication and then protocol communication. But when you're on your Chrome browser, right, so you're already in your logged in state, then a lot of the actions can be taken already with a lot of personalization. So it really unlocked a very personalized possibilities for our web browsing agent. Of course, with all of these opportunities, it comes with challenges. A couple of things that I'll mention is that, first of all, the web is very complex. Every single pixel actually is a possibility of action. So how do we really pinpoint the right action for the agent will be super important. And with the opportunity, there are also some risks, as I mentioned earlier, because the web browser can be so personalized. There's a high need for data security. So I'm going to pinpoint a couple of guardrails that has been built into this agent to make sure that we can protect PIIs. All right, so before we get started with the actual example, I'm going to walk you through some of the research that has been done that enabled the technology like this to exist. So one pivotal paper is the Web Voyager paper that came out in 2024. So this paper used a multimodal tool here, the multimodal input, to be able to understand the web situation. So it has visual grounding, so it has a pretty innovative way of dealing with how to pinpoint the right action for the AI agent, and it's also enabling an end-to-end action space, handling navigation, typing, scrolling, and clicking autonomously. And their GitHub page will have the information that you need to learn a little bit more about how to implement an AI agent using ChatGPT. Okay, so here, but we're not going to go through all of these. I'm going to do a simplified version of this. So for this paper to be able to be published, it has to deal with a lot more things like the evaluation. Okay, so we're not going to go through the evaluation piece, but we're going to go through the building piece to show you why a setup like this can be more accurate and precise. Traditional agents might interact with an image and have a heuristic understanding of what's going on. What is groundbreaking in this 2023 paper is to be able to mark the visual input so that there can be a lot more precise interactions with the input. So in this case, the JavaScript, once it's parsed, will be injected with numbers for each interactive element, right? So then when the AI agent is reasoning what actions to take, it can pinpoint exactly which specific element that it is going to interact with. So this is going to reduce hallucination drastically. Okay, last thing that I want to touch upon that is essential for building our example AI agent is React. Okay, so React stands for reasoning then action loop. So what is special about this, which is publicized by Google in a 2022 paper, is that instead of only using chain of thought, which is what reason-only system would do, or only using action-based feedback, we're combining them into a React space. So the agent will reason and act and then do a whole nother loop going back and forth to be able to find the most effective way of accomplishing the task, which would be the break. Once it's able to finish the task or the task is impossible to be finished. Okay, so once again, we see those three very important elements of an AI agent in this loop, right? So we have the observation piece. So being able to see the previous state, current state, and what the ultimate goal is will help the AI agent to form a plan. Okay, so with three groundbreaking new methodologies in mind, we can finally build our Agentic AI tool. So we're also going to be implementing those three very essential pieces into our code. So as you can see, each part of the system is built into our scripts. So if you click on this link, then you're directed into our interactive code, and you can either clone or download the repository, and then that will allow you to take a look at the code that can become your Chrome extension for an interactive web browsing agent. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the three different pieces a little more. So the state observer is the eyes. So it has to be able to understand what the current state is. So this is in our contents Okay, so they're all under source, and under contents, we have the simplified DOM. So that's reading the HTML file and then being able to generate a parsable string, right? And then this is the set of marks that we talked about earlier. So each interactive element has its own index. So that's what we mean by observation. So when we're looking at the whole HTML web page, it's parsed by indexes. So it has precision of where to point to on the page. So this is the eyes for our system. And then we have the brain. Okay, the brain is right here. So we have the system prompt and then the user prompt, right? So you can see here, it always defines the action space as a limited set of options, which we listed out earlier. And there are some guardrails that you can put in to make sure that the AI is not stuck in a loop, because our React methodology is a loop. So there has to be a way for the AI to get out of it. All right. And then this is a piece that is talking directly to the user. So our agent will interact with the user through this little input. And then the action space, the body part, is right around here. Okay, so this is the JSON file that parses the simplified DOM that our content script is able to generate. And then it will rationalize. And then when it's taking the action, it's pointing towards our JSON file. And it's going to generate an action right here. Okay, so with the goal in mind, knowing what it has done before, seeing what it's seeing now, like all the different elements that we talked about earlier, it's going to rationalize what action needs to be taken. So here it goes. All right, so once you download this folder, what you can do is you can load it into your Chrome extension. So here, I'm going to load my file right here. Okay, and then you can even log into the thinking process by using the developer mode. So we're going to go to the service worker, and then it's going to tell you the background script is loaded. And remember what the background script does. We talk about the two important elements into the system. The background script has both the brain and the body for the agent to interact. Perfect. So that's already loaded. And then now I'm going to go to here. I'm going to ask it a really simple question. Okay, so I'm going to ask it to read 2 articles about certain things and then give me a summary about it. Okay, so I'm going to say read the top 2 articles for what has happened in 2023, 2026 so far, and give me a summary of the top news. Okay, so this is what I am telling the agent to do. In a new tab, and I'm going to show you what it's doing right now. Okay, so this is running and it's clicking. Okay, and then it's getting out, aborted, as you can see right here. Let's go back to what the agent has been thinking, right? So our goal is to read what has happened in 2026 so far and give me the top news. Okay, so it found a tab that is working. And then I switch to that tab for you so you can see it in action. So it needs to find news articles about what has happened. So it navigated to Google search to perform a search. So the URL is schema for our output. And then, so here is our settle mark in action. So 21 is the first link, right? So you open that URL that unfortunately requires a login. And it exhausted its options after that, I know, but here it was able to find different articles, right? So there are 2 Google search buttons. I'll pick the first one. Okay, so that setup mark is 42. All right, and now it's on the search result page, and it will read the top 2 articles and summarize the top news. So it already saw Olympics, Mangione trial, Dune from USA Today, and they all seem like relevant news. This is identified by 160. All right, and here you click on a different article, and you need to scroll down. Since there's a lot of content, it decided to scroll down to view it. So the action is scroll right here. So it's the same URL, and it has scrolled down. After reading this, you will decide if I have enough information or I need to read more articles. And then you scroll down twice and decided to navigate. So it decided that this article is not good enough. So it's about predictions instead of what has happened. So we decided to go back. And that's when we ran out of our quota. Actually, let me go back to what the agent has seen before. Okay, so it started from here and it went to Google and it took on this link. And that's the first link when it read about the trial, the Olympics. And that summary was right here in one of our JSON outputs. Right, so here, the Olympics and Dune, the movie. So it is pretty correct. So let's go back to our slides. What can you improve upon this? So we were only able to do a really small using limited API quota, but if you sign up for your own project, you can get free trials and free credits, so you can expand the number of reasonings that the agent can do. But overall, when we're talking about AI agents, it's actually really important to have some measurement for successes. So in the paper that we were learning from earlier, Web Voyager, it actually used large language models themselves as judges. So it was able to pinpoint performance compared to the out-of-the-box models, and it looks quite successful. So going forward, there is a lot of opportunities with our specialized agents. So we really just use the example of a web browsing agent, but it can have access to so much information that there is a very vast opportunity out there. But going forward, there are a lot of areas that you can work on to improve your reliability of your specialized agents, right? So learning from humans, so maybe having a human in the loop, for example, in your evaluation of the success rate of the agent, and maybe even like when the AI is working, having input from human beings. We are seeing that with many agentic tools, including coding agents, right? Constantly ask for feedback for a plan, and then it can improve its actions based on the user feedback live. And then there can be more guardrails, and it can be more lightweight and more secure if you're running it locally. But all in all, there are a lot of opportunities that you can explore. But for now, we really want to get you started with the basic tools that will enable you to demystify how to build an AI agent. And there are lots of resources, including my GitHub, that you can take a look at to get yourself up to speed in the agentic AI building phase. And thank you so much for tuning in. And please comment if you have any questions, and I will update you with the new advancements in the agentic space. And subscribe if you want to learn more about tech and what is happening in AI. And I'll see you next time on the live stream. Bye.